Okay, group leaders, please take a glance on your left and right and do the checkbox of the attendance of all your team members in the class. Rana, are you really alone? Okay, so, and I like to see the list when I see all respectively for the tutorial groups. Okay, so I haven't seen you for a long time in class. I haven't seen you for a long time. Were you the one who celebrated your dad's birthday? Were you the one? Was he the one celebrated your dad's birthday? Don't understand. Okay, never mind. Right. Okay, so 2 announcements before we start. Good news on your side. I am, based on some procrastination that I've done, I'm going to delay your test. I'm going to delay your test to not next week, the following week. So the test is going to be scheduled on, if we look at the calendar here, I'm going to place the test on the first week of December. So the test will be pushed to first week of December, and so will your assignment submission. So your assignment submission will be delayed to this week. So you have 2 extra weeks for your assignment submission. So I don't know whether that's good news or bad news to you, but the reason why I'm doing it is because I want to be fair to you to be able to finish sequence diagram today and state chart diagram next week. Hang on, wait for questions, wait. So my plan is to talk to you about testing today and talk to you about sequence diagram today. And next week we will go into state chart, and then that wraps up all the diagramming techniques for UML, and that's a good cutoff point for you to get about a week to clean up your work, right? And also the test that will be on the 2nd of December. So your last week of your module semester will be the week of 30th December. So if you look at the calendar now, week of 30th December here will be your last week. That will be the last week of your lecture and your tutorial, because the first week of January will be where you will have to prep up for your exam. All right, okay? So if the submission is going to be on the, somewhere around, I'm looking at, I think I can allow the submission to be 8th of December. So when you submit it by 11:59, Monday you will come in for the presentation already. So that whole week will be presentation already. Okay, and then I have probably 2 more weeks to finish up, 2 more lecture coverage. So that's the plan. And so yeah, so you'll be given extra time for your assignment, and your test will be scheduled. Again, let's look at the date. Your test is going to be on the 2nd of December. So if it's 2nd of December means, yes, everything that I do until next week will be in your test. So every topic that I've covered, which is basically the software development methodology stages, as well as the last diagram, which will be your state chart diagram, all of it will roll up and come out for your test. Your test is MCQ. Your test, as I've already mentioned, I don't know why I'm repeating this over and over again. I even had a text during one of the holidays. Somebody sent me a text and asked me, Miss, what's the format of the test? I think I've said it very clearly that the format of the test is MCQ, multiple choice question. And it's going to be attempted during the lecture session. Just this session will be your test. So it's going to be about 30 to 40, I think I'll cap it to 40 MCQ questions. All right? Okay? And my advice to you is my sincere advice to you, when we wrap up, let's say when we wrap up, my lectures will be wrapped up This week, 16th, 23rd, 30th is very important because that's where I will do revision. Revision means I will discuss with you some potential questions that not exactly will come out, but it is around that area of coverage. So if I were to give you one use case diagram or two use case diagram to go and try out during that 3 weeks, go and try it out on your own. Because who knows, one of it will just pop out in the exam. So the last 3 weeks, week of 16th, week of 23rd, and week of 30th, do not miss the classes, please. All right? Because that's the revision week. All right? So today what we're going to do is, everybody's taken the attendance. I will just export the list now. Group leaders, please ensure that you have your names of your students that's justified for their presence today, okay? Now, quickly, I don't have much time, 45 minutes, okay? We're going to go into software testing and we're going to go into sequence diagram. Sequence diagram is actually one of the easiest diagram, many will say, as they would have already done it. Now, part of your assignment is to perform software testing. So let's try to understand what is software testing, right? Let's do an introduction, right? So in simple terms, let me just sum up the whole paragraph that you see there. The whole role of a tester is to find a bug. The role of the tester is to find, starting from, an error, right? That leads to a defect, and that defect will lead to a failure. So in software terminology, error is an English word. It's patented. So we can't generally use the word error in our sentences of software testing. But one word that we can use that signifies application issues or mistakes is what we call bug. All right, okay, so software bugs, they call it, okay? So the role of a tester is to work very closely with the developer to find the bug. Look at the sequence, I'm saying again, okay? So there is an error which leads to a defect. Ultimately, accumulated defect will give you a failure. But the problem here is sometimes you might not activate the error, right? Because that particular function is not called. So for example, if you were to have a feature in your HR application that allows a person to change their photo, everybody has got a tag, right? A lanyard, and there's a photo, and everybody's profile is online, isn't it, right? So imagine in the HR system, you have a feature where any employee can change their photos. But the photo that you have to upload is in a JPEG form. But then, the system's launched. There is an error whereby you didn't specify only JPEG. So the validation didn't specify only JPEG. Any format is acceptable. There's a small little fault there, right? Okay, small fault. So only if an employee performs the function. So imagine for 6 months, nobody uploads their electronic photo. So that particular error is not activated yet, right? So is the system a failure? No, the system's not a failure. Only when the error is activated and there's garbage that's stored in. So imagine you actually wanted only JPEG, but everybody is uploading PDF, everybody is uploading any sort of format of a photo, right? And if it's not performed as a function, the system is not a failure, right? There are errors, but it's not a failure. So what I'm trying to tell you is activation of multiple errors will form multiple defects, right? That will become a failure to the system. But there are errors that can stay dormant if the feature or function is not activated. So that means the system has got an error, right? But it's just that the function has not been activated yet, right? So that's also something that the tester has to do, part of his job function, okay? Now, so what is testing doing? It's to help to identify correctness, completeness, security, quality, reliability, everything that requires a product to conform to its standard. So when you test, you're actually performing two types of testing, something called white box testing, another one called black box testing. So when you talk about testing, you have to ensure that the product performs as such, and in terms of its functionality, in terms of every single nook of its feature, it meets the intended operation of the user. And the other thing is, it's got what we call a fitness for use. That means in totality, that product, right, is able to deliver the intended requirement of the user. So one's a big picture of the scope, the other one is small little minute functions and features of the system. So a accumulation of all the features and function will look into what we call functional completeness. Correct is each feature, function is correct. That means if you were to ask a login, right, you're able to put a login with the right variable type, right? If you execute it more than 3 times with an error, it logs you out of the system. So all of these are all validation features. So you are trying to see whether the system has got one, correctness. I can order a product. Is this site all about ordering a product? What kind of product? Can I go through a catalog? The overall, right, correctness in every single small little lead to the completeness is what the tester's job is supposed to be. You're looking at correctness, but completeness is, does the application at the end of the day, right, give me what it's intended to do? That means if I want to book a Grab to get to a destination, I have to go through all the correctness of its features, and then ultimately, completely, yes, I'm able to book a Grab. It's reliable, it's got security features, it'll ask me all the relevant data, right? It gets me to attend to my intended needs. That's what we call completeness. So that's what testing is supposed to do, right? Now, so why is it important? You are to uncover problems before product goes to market. Now, again and again, I tell you, tester's job is to find the bug. What is the job of the quality analyst? The quality analyst does, yes, they do overlap with the tester's job, but quality analysts are not finding bugs. Quality analyst is checking for conformance to requirements. So, if the tester's role is to ensure that there is no bugs before the product goes to the market, so the tester will turn around and say, no, the application has no bugs. I've checked every single correctness and it's complete. Yeah, complete to just the job of the software. But the other group of people that will oversee the testers is, yeah, you've done your bug check, we will do conformance check. That means if you abide by standard, we will redo your work, but we'll also look into whether or not the product delivered is of standard and whether or not the product is fit to be going into the market. You will say fit, but you will say fit because it performs, the function's there. But we will say fit if you abide by standard. So these are the two differentiations that you must see, you must understand, because you must know the difference between getting hired as a tester and getting hired as a quality analyst. Two separate responsibilities. So in the industry, it's a lot about who's got the power. If you ask me that question, today, if quality is a requirement and it's a department and it is a need, right, to obtain recognition, quality team has got the way possible. If the testers say product can go into market, the quality can turn around and say, no, not ready. Not ready. So please understand the distinctive roles between. Okay, so basically, this is what you do as a tester. You ensure that you detect, remember the 3 scenarios that I gave you. You find an error. There's a particular error in the function. For example, if you have a login screen, if you do not have sufficient integrity in your system, anybody can try hundreds of potential match of login and password, correct? So the vulnerability of your system is exposed. How many times I want to try also I can enter your system. Somehow my match will go. Or if at all you put some simple level of integrity, the system will lock you out in 3 tries. And then immediately they ask you, you forgot your password, is it? Okay, we will help you. Go. Right? Go and change your password. Okay, but there we need some authentication. Check whether you're the correct person. Correct or not, right? So, what you are realizing here is, if you allow the system to just, keep on rolling onto a loop, not wrong login, wrong password, keep on trying, just exhaust. That means there is a particular error in the system. Error falls under, it might fall under security. Under security, what does it fall under? Right? So all of these are small little errors that will lead to what we call a fault. There's an error, the system is faulty. There's a defect. Who causes the error? Are you going to do what every human being says? It's the system lah. It's the system that caused the error. No, who causes the error? Can somebody give me a very smart answer? Who causes errors in a software application? Who? Programmer equals people. Yeah, we have to blame ourselves. Sorry, cannot blame the application. We built it. Right? If ChatGPT is not helping you very well, don't blame Chat. Blame the people behind Chat or the people who provide the source of data to Chat. So at the end of the day, the cause of errors are still people. Right? So because of people's mistake, what happens? You have got a fault. There's a defect. Accumulate your defect. What happens to your application? It's a failure. All right? Remember the sequence, huh? Error, fault or defect. There's another word for defect. That's fault and failure. All right? So what is software testing? Now, look at the last line. So testing can show errors, give us greater confidence in the quality of your software, measure performance, indicate quality, but testing is not a substitute for quality, but it can reveal poor quality system. So if you go out there later on when you start your first employment, or if at all if you take work-based learning or internship, if you go into a software application house, if, let's say, in the interview, the interviewer, and you're going in as an application developer, whatever, you're going in front end, back end, full stack, whatever. If the interviewer turns around and asks you, okay, after all these interview questions, and he'll ask you, okay, do you have any question for us? Ultimately, any Asian answer will be no. No question. One question that you can ask them very politely. Again, reverse. Do you have any question for us? One question you can ask them. I'd like to know, in this organization, how much of importance do you give to quality? Do you have a separate department for it? Right? Are the policies laid down from top down? Is there a standard that you incorporate? If you ask this kind of question, in Malaysia, we call fuyo, right? Wow, they'll be shocked that a student like this can ask this question, because this is a very intelligent question. Trust me, I've told my students all to go and ask during their internship, and when they come back and they said, Miss, we asked the question, and what was the exact expression? Good question. Good question. And especially when you're going for the role of a tester or software quality analyst. So if they are hiring a quality analyst, the first question that you do, am I going to be working under a department? Hence, do you have a software quality department? Or is quality facaded with testing? That's what many software houses do, right? You're a quality analyst, you get thrown into the Scrum team. And what do? You just, brush shoulders with the tester. Same task. Am I not repeating what you're doing, right? Or are we conforming on a standard? So many organizations don't have what we call a quality culture. So that's a very important sentence, right? So key words that we talk under testing would be software verification, validation, black box and white box testing. So they sort of interrelate with each other. So we're going to go into, I'm going to go into this, right? I want to go into what to take. Okay, so this is what, so in your assignment, if you realize, you are to identify functional requirements and non-functional requirements. So this is functional testing. Functional testing is actually checking for validations. So functional is every single function in your application. So if a customer can make an order, right? Placing an order is a function, correct? If you're going to verify the order or issue an invoice, or you're going to generate the payment or process the payment, they are all functions. So you have to do what we call functionality testing. Functionality testing covers two things, which is you verify what that function is supposed to do. First, you understand what the function is supposed to do. Understand means a customer wants to make an order. A customer has got an ID. He wants to buy more than one product, at least a minimum of one product. If he's going to make that order, he will have to select the product, and of course he'll have to make the payment, and he'll have to specify. So I'm understanding that operation, right? So that is what we call verifying the. If you're going to test the function, then you're going to go into place order screen. What's the place order screen? First, the customer will have to ensure that he's got a unique code, and then he'll have to be able to browse the catalog, all right? Is he allowed to order 10 products at one go? Or, must he specify a few other details before going to the catalog? Or, are there important fields that you want the person to ensure he fits in? So all of these are all the nitty-gritty of the features of that particular operation. So what you do is you do a validation check. When you validate for wrong entry of data variable type. You also validate in terms of the integrity of the system. So if a customer misses a field, do you say, thank you very much for your submission of your order. Garbage in, garbage out. Hey, he missed the field. He didn't select the catalog, but thank you very much for your order. So if he missed the catalog, he forgot to click on it, right? Or he want to verify the quantity. So there has to be some level of integrity that you need to actually, at the end of the day, customers are dumb. The system needs to be able to help them. Hey, you forgot this. Hey, go back, the field is not filled up. Hey, you didn't put a verification. Or the quantity doesn't seem to be valid. So the system needs to think for the user. Because at the end of the day, I think you got the wrong class, yeah. At the end of the day, we have become lazy. We are near to become stupid. Right? Because at the end of the day, the mistake we made will hit the system. So slow, the system. What is this? Cannot even function. Why loading so slow? What you don't realize is the application is not standalone. It needs to depend on, for example, telcos, right? Vendors. So imagine the whole grid of your system needs to have good handshake with all the providers to make it successful. So running a business using an application is pretty challenging, all right? Now, so you can read about all of this. Now, non-functional is to test for performance. Non-functional is also to test for Fitness for use, usability, HCI. Have you gone to a website where, you load the website, you'll be thinking, where is what? How do I just want to find where do I go? I had that problem when I first went into Lazada, right? So much in one screen. First launch of Lazada was horrendous. The first launch. People didn't know where to go. There were just too many. And then now advertisements start to pop out a lot, right? In the early days when it was launched, very less. But now because the branding is very heavy already, they can afford to do that. And you must understand, in terms of online marketing, it's all about repeating your marketing. Repeat. Every time you load, and if you have got that traction for that type of liking of that product, online advertising and marketing is just basically finding the algorithm to know what your needs are. So unique algorithms will tailor to your feed, right? That's what online marketing does. That is how companies like Shein, right, did very well or is doing very well. No doubt they have got some issues, legal, but they're doing very well. Every time you load, Shein comes out. Every time you load, Shein comes out. Because they threw a large amount of investment in marketing. And that is what every online business, if they have got investors who got big pool of money, where does that pool of money go? Throw it into marketing and advertising. Just put people up until the maximum to their limit until they want to know, hey, actually, who are you? I want to know. You're just popping too many times in my head. And that becomes a brand name already. Just like how Google started. Nobody knew what the hell was Google. Today it's an English word, Google it. You can Google it. Correct or not? Because their advertising was up to here. People wanted to know. You couldn't brush it off like a fly or a mosquito. You had to face it. All about, right? And it starts to populate to people. So when you talk about testing, right, you can go into, so what you're doing in your assignment, by the way, is just this. You're doing unit testing. Unit testing means check all your modules. Perform testing for each of your modules in terms of the functions. You know what are functions now? So if you were to have a hotel reservation system, you must have a testing to see the whole screen of booking a hotel. Can a customer book a minimum, maximum hotel? Do you have to specify the day that you're checking in and the day that you're checking out? Right? And every single entry needs to be validated. So you perform validation for your functions. Right? Okay, so you're performing unit testing. Now we jump to, I'm in the midst of actually creating the exam paper. Actually, I've already created your exam paper. I'm going to browse to one very important slide. All this you can read, right? Now, this one. If you just heard what I said, somebody asked me, I think it was Rana, Miss, how was your week? How was your 1 week of independent learning? Now, it's independent learning for you. It is create exam paper week for me, right? So last week was spent creating 5 exam papers, right? And your paper was one of it in the pool. Now, it's gone through and it's been approved, right? Well, it's in the midst of being approved. It's going for the first verification, right? So I've already created your exam paper. So from today onwards, when I say exam, pay attention. Because I already know the questions. Okay, right? So as I'm going to do it again. Exam. White box and black box testing. What is it? Make sure you understand. Now, white box testing refers to writing tests for internals of the class, the if statements, while statements, algorithm, code reviews. So white box is actually the most crucial testing mechanism. White box testing is performing every single test in your features, your data type, your sequence of one screen to the other, the execution of each particular command. When you click submit or when you click apply, what's the next screen that comes, right? Do you want to delete? They ask you again, right? So all of this. Are you sure this is your payment method? Do you want to verify? Do you want to save your card? White box testing is actually testing functionality, pure functionality, right? So if you look at black box, it ignores the internal implementation and concentrates on the service that the module offers. Also tests sequence of calls into object. So black box testing is not interested more in the functions, the nitty-gritty of one element of data into the next. So if you open up, let's say, an application form, white box goes into each field testing. Black box is more into, okay, once the application is submitted, right, where should it go? That output will go into input of another. So it's not very concerned with every single element inside your function, but it's more of a big picture, hence to verify that the system flow goes in accordance of what should happen inside system. So if you all remember activity diagram, right? So black box is more of an activity, right? White box is more of opening up each activity and going into each data type, right? Flow of feature and function. You have to read this a little bit more, right? So when you look at black box, it involves testing from an external or end user perspective. It can be applied at virtually every level. So this is what we call a high level testing. So one of the most famous black box testing is, you know what? You build a small prototype, you invite potential 10 users. Can we get you all to be our demo users? And you actually perform an observation of how the users use the system. Are they facial expressions, movement of mouse, right? Are they finding the application easy to use? Are they finding, let's say if I tell him, okay, your task is to finally get to a payment for that particular product. Okay, navigate it. You should take around this amount of minutes, navigate it, right? Write down every single challenge that you find when you look at the screen. So he might turn around and tell you, you know, why are your fonts like that? You know, it doesn't seem to be very clear, right? I don't understand why your tab button has to be here. So all of these are all what we call user acceptance testing. It's the big picture, right? And you should have at least a workable application to be able to run a review from an potential end user, right? So, and the beauty about black box is, right, you wait for all the white box testing to finish, then you can run a black box testing, right? So you can throw in a prototype testing. And then you can use that prototype to either evolve, or you can even use it as, depending on when you're doing it, you can even use it as a throwaway prototype, right? Okay, so that is about testing. We don't have much time. Now I'm going to go into sequence diagram. Now this week, say one thing I like to highlight to you, in the standard Taylor slides, I believe you do not have notes on sequence diagram. But just like how I've given all this link, Visual Paradigm, Lucid, eDraw, IBM, right? There are many links that you just need to go through, and I think everybody is very well aware of these links. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give everyone a bit of these links. I'm going to give all the team leads, the class reps, these links that you see up there, right? You see all these links up there. They're all under my bookmarks, not the CAMS one, okay? And I'm going to share it with you to best understand sequence diagram, Okay, right? So let's try to get a little bit of understanding. We don't have much time, okay? But I'm just going to go quickly into what is sequence diagram. The first diagram that I want to show to understand sequence is this. The standard question I always have for you. Which category does sequence diagram fall under? Structured or behavioral? The answer is obviously staring at you up on the screen, right? So it falls under behavioral. We've done use case, we've done activity, we're going into sequence, we'll end with your state chart diagram. So let's try to understand a little bit of sequence diagram. Now, keyword, pay very close attention. High level interaction between active objects in the system. So, where does the sequence diagram come down from? You can bring it down from your object diagram. So all the objects that you have created, you can build a sequence flow of it. I like to think of it like an activity diagram of the object movement. Right? Okay? Just like how we have swim lanes, very similar to it. Okay? So what it does is it models the interaction between object instances within a collaboration that realizes a use case. Right? Or uses or branches down from a use case, right? So you also have between the operation. So these are the keywords that I want you to look at, right? And let's say, look at a sample. Everybody put away your phone, put away your laptop. I can just see who's on the phone, who's on the laptop. Put away, listen. Put away your laptops, listen, very important sequence. I still have people drawing use case diagram for all the other diagrams. Okay, now let's have a look at this. Very simple. This is sequence. So this is what we call a lifeline, which brings in all your objects and your instances. This is called lifeline, right? So this is called a message. So these can be your object and your instances, right? Now, and this is an activation. Actually, all the lines with the existence of the lifeline is drawn as a dotted. If you don't have the activation bar, right, they're all dotted lines, straight dotted lines, right? The activation basically activates that particular operation. So meaning to say that operation, that means make reservation, activates here, and it ends here if the reservation closes, right? So this is what we mean by activation bar, right? So if you look, and this is what we call stop. That's it. That's the end of the sequence diagram, right? And the beauty about sequence diagram is it's like a work breakdown structure. How you read it is based on the numbering that you put. So if you look at the numbering, you've got an instance here taking from the object UI. You have got a particular instance of window. You have a message that says make reservation number 1. So when you go into a chain which is based on your object, which is your hotel chain, you have from your class, you have a make reservation that goes through the hotel chain to the hotel. So this could be either through booking.com or it could be from the main hotel to the specified hotel. So you can have multiple hotels within a chain website, but because you chose Majestic, it will go to the Majestic's website, right? So that's why you have got this. And then it goes into a loop. So all of these are features and functions, right? That in order for you to understand, you need to know the notations inside sequence diagram. So some sequence diagram don't bring actors. It's up to you. It's up to you to show if you want the sequence diagram to be initiated by an actor. In this example, no actor, right? Or if you want to put an actor, it could be guest. But that guest must appear in your use case. So it's all a follow through, okay, right? And you must at least have, if at all, if you want to bring, but this is just about making reservation. It's not about registering a guest, okay, right? So you've got to be very careful there. So this is the actor, right? this is what we call a lifeline. Lifeline is representing an individual participant in the interaction, which could be the instance through the object. This is the activation bar. This is the call message. Now, this is what we call a return message. Now, one thing I want you to pay close attention to, okay? Call message, you see this arrow, right? That's just an arrow, right? Now, you have got something called a, where is that? You have got asynchronous and synchronous, right? It's not in this, but I think I can show you. A very important differentiation. Symbol. Yeah, okay, there it is. Okay, look at this, huh? In sequence diagram, the main two types of arrow that we play with is what we call the synchronous. You see this arrow? It's a dark shade here, okay? And async. Follow me very carefully. The synchronous message is represented by a solid line with a solid arrowhead. This symbol is used when a sender must wait for a response to a message before it continues. The diagram should show both the call and reply. Right? Okay? So the call, that means in sync message, if you use the darkened arrowhead, you will have to, that particular message, you will need a response. The response is represented by a dotted line that goes back. Right? So if you go back to my diagram here, if you go back to this diagram here, this is what we call a return message. So this is a return. All return messages are dotted line. The only difference in the forward arrows are whether or not it's synchronous or asynchronous. Okay, so these are the two. And then you have got another one that's very common called self-message. You saw that up there, right? It's called self-message, right? So what is a self-message? A self-message is, it defines a particular communication between lifelines of an interaction. It's a kind of message that represents the invocation of a message of the same lifeline. So you can actually call and send back to that particular. Make reservation, right? Check availability, confirm reservation with the same particular feature of that module. All right? So this is the only time where you use. So these are the most common, and then you have a duration. If you use an arrow that goes down a bit, that means it's not immediate. It takes a little bit of time, right? And then that plays with the activation on when that particular function gets called, right? So there are many notes to this. So for example, you have got this, right? So you have got a patient. You see, like in this one, you have got a patient. Again, many notations that are good and some are not good, but the whole sequence outlook is like this. Okay? You have got your some, listen to me very carefully, huh? Some sequence diagram samples you see online, be careful, huh? They bring all the actors and all the use cases, which is wrong. The core of sequence diagram is actually to play mainly with your objects and your instances. That means when you have an instance that is running a particular operation within that particular object, you are showing the sequence flow of those instances, right? So you can, but this is just a basic to understand. Better diagrams to look at for sequence is, for example, I will show you this, this one. See? Okay. Object 1, Object 2, Object 3. Message, asynchronous. Message would be synchronous, right? Okay, when people say message in sequence diagram, it's usually the synchronous message, right? And then you have got async. You look at the arrow. I would draw another dotted line if there's a reply here. Dotted line will reply your sync. Whenever you throw a synchronous message, there must be a dotted line to reply back. Remember, the difference between sync and async is sync will need a reply back. Async, you just have to send. You don't need a reply back, right? So, for example, you make an order, the reply would be confirm order. Correct, right? So, that's a sync message, right? Okay. So, async would be maybe from the account, from let's say the payment department, right? Giving the customer this way, it might move the customer that side. Payment will be final payment details. Final payment details, that's it, doesn't reply what? Customer doesn't have to reply. I'm just telling you what's your final payment details. That's it. So anything, just for a little while, think. In any sequence of operation that the system gives you something and you have to give back. Confirm order, right? Yes or no? Final confirmed order. So you must return back. Alright, it's like asking you, are you sure you want to delete? Yes. Right? So that's a return back. That is what we call synchronous messages. Yes, I have a few exercises in sequence diagram, right? So this is what I'm saying, right? Okay, return. This is things, right? Then you have got, you can even create, this is very interesting. You can even, some people really want to go to the core of sequence diagram. They create the object only when the object's activated. It's like, for example, you know, you go and purchase your products on Lazada and then you, or any website that you can choose your intended delivery participant. That means you can choose whether you want 24 hours delivery or you want, you know, normal time delivery, right? So if you choose 24 hours, that particular delivery vendor will come in only at that time because he's selected at that time. He's not consistently part of your application. He only comes in when you tap him and say, oh, somebody has chosen your delivery method. So you go and activate him. So that is when that instance or object comes into play. That's why it's a bit lower than that straight line. Question, is sequence diagram in your exam? Yes. In your exam, I have asked you 3 diagrams. In your exam, I have, I better not boo-boo this, right? I have use case, I have activity diagram, and I have sequence diagram. I don't have state chart in your exam, but it's in your assignment. I don't have, I need to check whether I have class object. Wait, choke, I got 4 questions. Can I come back to you on that? I need to come back to you on that because I might make a mistake with whether am I talking about the research paper or the original paper. We are all to create 2 papers. One is the original first attempt and the other one is the second attempt, which is the research. So can you just excuse me, and next Monday I will tell you exactly which diagrams are coming out. And remember, like I told you, the last 3 weeks of